My name is Alan Patterson. I do not smoke marijuana, but I think I'm starting to like it. All right, I want to tell you some about how the Libertarian Party of Tarrant County, Texas, and the National Party work together with outfits like DFW Norml to end prohibition. The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. That's why we're all here, right? I'm representing an organization called the National Organization for the Reform of Laws. Just about all of them. Every one of them needs some work. Too many people are making money off of it. But why libertarian? Don't we have two other major political parties that should be on board with your ideas of freedom and independence and doing what you want with your own body? Well, no, actually, we do not. Keith Stroop, who spoke at Now 30, he's founded Norml in 1970. 1 year later, David Nolan got worked up and irritated against Richard M. Nixon and founded the Libertarian Party. And here is a plank in that very first party platform from 1972. We hold that no action which does not infringe the rights of others can properly be termed a crime. We favor the repeal of all laws creating crimes without victims, such as laws on voluntary sexual relations, drug use, gambling, and attempted suicide. And what have, say, the Democrats done on these issues? 40 years later, count them, 40 years later, in the year of our Lord, 2013, the Democrat Party put a marriage equality plank into their platform. We've been working here on this since 1972. If there are any Democrat Party officials in this room, we're glad that you finally did the right thing. Thank you. Democrat and Republican office holders, in Texas anyway, don't come to events like this. They don't come to rallies like this. You know why? Because they are ashamed. They're ashamed. There's too much money at risk. You see, our government is keeping itself in power with their drug war. The drug war needs soldiers, guards, narcs, jailers, counselors, parole officers, interrogators, torturers, drug testers, urinalysis sniffers, psychologists, military hardware suppliers, armies, navies, air forces, and in the case of Barack Obama and George Bush and Bill Clinton, traitors to the cause. All of these people are making money off the drug war, and they vote. They'll even vote for former pot smokers like George Bush and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, as long as that money and the paychecks and the benefits and the retirements keep flowing. There's little or no difference between how our two major political parties behave while they're in office. Now, at one point in my lifetime, there were 2 marijuana arrests per hour in the United States. Later on, it got up to 89 arrests per hour. Now, look at that mountain of ruined lives. That's what it is. Does anybody here think they could tell me who was in charge of Congress at the little peaks and valleys? Anybody know who was president? Well, here goes. In '66, there were 2 arrests per hour. It mushroomed under Nixon, leveled off under Ford, Carter, Reagan, and Daddy Bush. Then Bill Clinton was elected. You see that little second mountain range there? Clinton was elected, and he finally remembered to exhale. And then he became very uncool because he never inhaled again. That's that mountain range you see right there. He increased drug arrests by 115% for reasons that I'll never understand. So what choices have the Democrats and Republicans given marijuana users? Who did they put up in the last election? Oh, there's a Russ Belville slide. Russ Belville, is he in the house? Yeah, there he is. Here's the Republican candidate. I'm opposed to it, and if you elect me president, you're not going to see legalized marijuana. I'm going to fight it tooth and nail. And I'll say this for the Mormon Mitt Romney, at least he was honest. The Democrat candidate, Barack Obama, after making comforting noises, won the election, and here's what he's done. The Bush administration carried out 40 raids on medical marijuana clinics in just 8 years. Obama's DEA carried out 170 in one half that time. That's with 61 federal indictments compared to Bush's 1. Hope, change, marketing, that's all it is. You had a choice in that 2012 election, a choice that many of you made to vote for somebody who respects your right to do as you please with your own body. And you chose to vote for Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray for president and vice president of the United States of America. Folks, big government is at the root of your prohibition problem. It's a consumption choice on their part. The only way government can grow is by inhibiting your financial or your personal freedom. And the Libertarian Party is trying so hard to fight back on so many levels. School choice, ending the Fed, marriage equality, gun rights, ending crony capitalism, ending the welfare state, minimizing foreign intervention, cutting the spending, and on and on and on. And some of you might support some of these programs and activities, but please bear with me. I can tell by your faces you support some of these things. These are 6 government agencies in charge of ending poverty. In 2011, they spent $61,000 for every poor family in the United States. 61 grand per poor family. So why do we still have poverty? It's because they keep a substantial amount of the money and spend it on themselves. 1/2 of the richest 1% of counties in America are in the ones immediately surrounding Washington, D.C. But look at what was happening to poverty in the late 1950s. It was dying. It was almost gone. We had it on the ropes. And what were we using to kill poverty in the 50s and early 60s? Nothing. Private charity, civic organizations with benevolent funds, churches, other charitable organizations. And then in the early 60s, Lyndon Johnson declared war on poverty. And poverty came off of life support in a big way. The government increased poverty by trying to kill it. Does this remind you of any other charts you've seen multiple times this morning? The exact same thing happens. They get involved trying to kill it, it increases. Since 1970, we've tripled our spending on education. Test scores have flatlined. In 1913, a group of bankers created the Federal Reserve monetary system, and they gave it a mandate to stabilize the money supply. Since then, the dollar has lost 97% of its value. I don't think Benjamin Franklin ever sat down and said, a dollar saved is 97 cents lost. But that's what they have done for us. Federal Reserve System, we fight it every chance we get. Since 1950, we've been running around the world, acting as the world's police force. We now have 46% of the world's military spending. 46% of the world's military spending with only 6% of the population. Now, do you feel safer? By the way, your share of this debt we're running up is 50 grand. Who all is good for that? Young ladies here, $50,000? I didn't think so. Okay, in 1950, 48% of teenagers had a job because of higher and higher minimum wage regulation. Only 22% of teenagers now have a job. They're getting priced out of the market because we're so compassionate. Now look at the incarceration levels in general. You think there's money to be made on that? Can you tell where the drug war began? Oh, and in addition to that 50 grand, young ladies, your share of the bills that haven't come due yet but that are in the mail because I'm going to retire soon, your share is $130,000 unfunded liabilities. Get a second job now because we're racking up the spending just like that. Now, this one right here, this is the third time you've seen this slide this morning. It's always reminded me of that education slide. We have spent $1.5 trillion to make that number at the bottom flatline. It has not changed a thing, not a thing. You could buy a small house or 5 cars or pay toward a college education with your share of that $50,000 in debt. Democrats and Republicans have reached across the aisle in a bipartisan spirit of cooperation to screw you and screw you hard. That is all that they have accomplished with racking up those debts. Please, if you're at this conference, you need to do the right thing and just stop voting for them. Send that signal. You'll never be called on to be a tiebreaker in an election, but you can send a signal. And not all of this is depressing for drug users. As the spending has gone up, what has happened to the price of controlled substances? It has gone down. The price of weed has gone down. The marijuana costs less than the munchies, if you can believe that. The Doritos and the Cheetos cost more than the weed. If that's not an economic system failure, I'm no judge. I'm reserving this for later. Big Brother is not your friend. You want more government. That's what it looks like. But aren't you wasting your vote if you vote for a libertarian? No. The most wasted vote of all is cast in favor of the mess that I just showed you. But we're getting there with candidates like Gary Johnson, Judge Jim Gray, 1 million votes in the last election cycle. If this I Side With application you may have seen on Facebook, if that was a ballot box, Gary Johnson would have been president of the United States. Most people are libertarians. They just don't know that that third choice is out there. So you got to wake up. Take the red pill. Get mad. Be libertarian with me. Be libertarian with Gary Johnson. Be a libertarian with Judge Jim Gray. Leave everybody else alone like you want to be left alone. So you ask, what do you guys do together? How did DFW, Norml, and the Tarrant County Libertarian Party? What do you guys do? Well, we get together and we're group activists in lots of activities, like our Liberty Speakers Series. You guys showed up at our Libertarian presidential debate and our state convention, all 3 days of it. We showed up at your Veterans Park smokeout to campaign. Same thing for Froggy's Beach Club. The Austin Legislative Forum with Cheyenne Weldon, who I believe we'll be hearing from tomorrow. Catch me next door. I'm going to tell you about how you sponsored the March Against Monsanto, even though you didn't. We have a Texas Regional Norml Conference going on in this very building that the Libertarian Party sponsored. And every now and then I like to dress up as Big Tex after the fire and party with Sean really, really, really hard. Somebody's got to do it. But most of all, we vote. The Libertarian Party of Tarrant County has gone from 150 straight ticket votes to 300 to 700, 1,500, and the last election we had 3,000 straight party ticket Libertarian Party votes. Next time, 2014, we have a stated goal of hitting 6. Now, what about the future? The future depends on if you vote, if you take that red pill. If you're going to keep wasting your time voting for Democrats and Republicans, you might as well go back to your little stash boxes and your secrecy and your paranoia that so many of you may have even grown to love and cherish. Make a choice. Vote libertarian. I want to tell you about a man in a cage in your backyard. You heard some racket. He's back there. Some armed guards are guarding him. You go in your backyard. What's this racket? What's going on here? Well, we've got this guy in a cage. Well, who's keeping him there? We are. Why are you doing this? Because you're paying us to. No, I'm not. Oh, yeah, you are. So you stop and you think, what are you going to do about it? Well, you're going to ask, why is he in a cage? Well, he smoked some marijuana, or he got caught with some of it, or he sold a whole lot of it. Well, hell, Barack Obama and Bush and Gingrich and Palin and John Kerry and Al Gore, they all smoked a lot of it but didn't get caught. Let this guy out of the cage. That's what you'd say, right? Right? No, most of us wouldn't. We would pretend he's not there, just like this man does every night of his life. He goes to bed knowing it could have been him in that damn cage. Who's keeping this man in office? You are. I am. We don't do enough. We wouldn't shake the boat. We'd go back in the house. We'd watch Dancing with the Stars. We would surf the web. And we would forget about this poor guy in the cage. We would be reasonable. After all, those guards know more than us, right? It's somebody else's job to get that guy out of the cage. Let Sean McAllister or Alan Patterson or Adrian Murray or Judge Jim Gray or somebody else worried about it. But nobody has ever built a statue of a reasonable man. Nobody has ever built a statue of a reasonable man. Every statue you've ever seen of a hero was built to honor somebody like this gentleman right here who was 100% unreasonable. And here's why. This is George Bernard Shaw. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. There's going to be no progress in this fight until you stop being reasonable. Raise hell, roll a stump under it, bang pots and pans together in the street, go ahead and lose some Facebook friends, embarrass your preacher, vote. Remember that you might be the next man in the cage. It could be you. Support the Libertarian Party and support DFW Norml. Now I'm going to be over here with my buddies. Almost said my buds. I'm going to be over here with my buddies for the rest of this conference. We've got some great handouts, and we've got some good info for you. And we'd love to talk to you about freedom, liberty, and ending prohibition through the Libertarian Party.